Critical Perspective in Philippine History. Many of us learn history in elementary and high school through simple memorization. We were required to recall names, date, places, and events without really understanding what these details revealed about the past. Because these facts were drilled into our minds, it became difficult for us to adjust our understanding when new information came along. Today, we recognize that studying history is actually a conversation, one that focuses not just on when event happened or who was involved, but on why this event matter and how they shape what came after. The shallow and memorized way we learn history is not entirely the fault of our teachers. Rather, it reflects a larger systemic issue rooted in the lack of sufficient government support and attention to the education sector. So it discusses here how many of us learn history in elementary and high school. It explained that the teaching method was mainly focused on memorization, remembering names, date, events, and places without truly understanding what this data revealed about the past. Because such facts were drilled into our minds, it became harder for us to adjust our understanding when new information appeared. The next emphasized that today we recognize that studying history is more like a conversation. It involves not just knowing what happened or who was involved, but understanding why this event matter and how this influenced what happened next. It also stated the shallow, memorized way we learn history is not entirely the teacher's fault. Instead, it reflects a wider systemic problem caused by an insufficient government support for the education sector. Government corruption has contributed to spreading history textbook filled with poor quality information, careless content. Because a more critical approach to studying history is still not fully practiced in basic education. Many of us end up accepting outdated, distorted, or unexamined interpretation of the past. In this lesson, we examine several examples of this problem. First, we revisit how Filipinos have been taught about prehistoric Philippines. Second, we look into the legacies of colonization, questioning how the Spanish and American period have been framed as contributors to the nation's supposed progress. Finally, we explore a more specific case, the wartime puppet government of the Philippines, which is often treated merely as a minor details classroom. So in this lesson, government corruption affect the quality of education, including the history textbooks used in school. Because of this corruption, many textbooks contains error, shallow explanations, or outdated information. Since schools do not always teach students to analyze history critically, many people end up believing wrong or incomplete version of historical events. The lesson aims to show example for this problem. First, prehistoric Philippines. How early Philippine history has been taught incorrectly or oversimplified. Second, colonization. How Spanish and American colonizers are often presented as having helped the Philippines without examining the harm of biases in those narratives. Lastly, puppet government during World War II. How this part of history is treated as a small of an important topic even though it is significant. Overall, the paragraph highlights that historical education must be improved so people can understand the past more accurately.